Probably one of my favorite things in the whole entire world is taking my kids to school, getting a chance to take Maddox and McKenna, driving them to school. I try and steal that experience every single time that I can. And my wife is like, no, it's my day. And I'm like, nah, I'm trying to pick them up. I'm trying to take them to school because I get a chance to be able to have some amazing conversations with them. Well, the other day I was taking my daughter, McKenna. She's 15 years old, almost 16. And we're working on that gift that we talked about before, the focus, right? I'll tell you in future episodes, just in case she's actually listening to the podcast. I don't think she is, but I was on the way to school with her, and she turned to me and she just said something that hit me like a ton of bricks. She said, the cheaper the price, the more the buyers. And I said, what do you mean? She said, well, Mr. Fred, and I want to thank you, Mr. Fred. You know, I love you, Fred Ciosi. You're an incredible human being. But the dad of her best friend, Corinne, is named, my kids call him Mr. Fred. We'll talk about that here in a bit. But they call him Mr. Fred. And Mr. Fred actually showed a little, I think it was like a TikTok or an Instagram or reel or whatever it was. And it said, the cheaper the price, the more the buyers. And what he was saying to his daughter is just make sure you have a high value on yourself, because if not, the cheaper the price, the more the buyers. Now, I was so glad to hear this because as a father of a 15-year-old, I want to make sure that my daughter has a high value on herself and that she's not obviously she gets giddy when a boy wants to talk to her or things like that. But I tell her all the time, like, they're lucky to be talking to you. They're hitting the lotto if they get a chance to talk to you because you're intelligent, you're witty, you're incredibly, you have so much going for you, like your sense of humor, all these things. And on top of that, you're absolutely beautiful. So the reason why I don't lead with that is because I don't want my wife or my daughter to think that her beauty is the number one. I want her to know that the foundation of her intelligence, who she is, her heart, the character that she has, the intellect, all those things are the basis and the foundation. And then the beauty is just on top. But all these boys, these little boys running around, any one of them that gets the opportunity to spend time with my daughter, man, they are hitting the lotto. And there are some, you know who you are if you're listening to this. You fumbled the bag. There's times where my daughter was like, oh, wow, I like this boy. And then they didn't, it didn't work out or whatever it is. And I say to her every single time, they fumbled the bag. But it goes back to that thought in my head, the cheaper the price, the more the buyers will show up, right? And the more buyers will be there. And then I read and I was like, how, God, are you going to be able to translate that into a proverb? And in Proverbs 21, it actually took us right through this. And it helps us understand that high value comes from the work that very few people see and even fewer people are willing to do. So why don't we get this party started?
Achieving, cause we believing it's for certain. We put the work in. We ain't stopped just because it's hurting right before your eyes. So it's coming to no surprise. The takeover is televised over and over and over again. Make no mistake, we continue to win. Defeat never known, cause I will not lose. They wanna mimic my moves, but can't walk in my shoes.
If you're listening on Apple, that is the commercial for the Vibe Room. If you're watching on YouTube, which I know that you are right now, and I want to thank every single one of you. If you've subscribed, if you've commented, if you've liked, if you've shared it, I just want to tell you I thank you. We are listener supported, and it just means the world to me that you're here. And, this proverb, Proverb 21, which hit me really hard because it talked about the value that, if we want to raise our value, we'll do work that very few people that will see, and even fewer will actually be willing to do. And the amazing thing about it is it's pretty simple work. It's pretty simple work as far as the basis of it, and these Inchstones that we're doing, which make up the milestones, the little tiny things, the Inchstones that you put in place that when they pile up, and you celebrate them. Did this, yay, I got out of bed, yay, I was, I was nice to my kids today, yay, whatever it was, those pile on and become the milestones as you go. And so I want to thank you guys for being here with me. And, station identification, we got our book. If you don't have the Vibe, go check it out on Instagram or go check it out on Amazon. You got Bling, which is the Bling Shine Serum, adds moisture, strength, and shine, smells like vacation. It's unbelievable. But also too, the Vibe Room. The Vibe Room is November 9th. It's at the Edison House, and it is going to be unreal. Phenomenal lineup for you as always. But let's hop right into this proverb, because I was wondering how, the cheaper the price, the more the buyers. Now, some people are going to argue this and be like, well, if you have a high value, you're going to have less customers. Okay, well, that's a choice. When we're talking about business, that's just a choice. You can do a lot of volume, right, at a low price. That's completely fine. But this one pertained to my daughter at 15 years old, and I want her to have a high value on herself. And if she has a high value, there's not going to be as many buyers. There's not going to be as many little jokers running around. But the ones who do understand the value of it, and they're willing to put in the work. And so that's what ultimately I want for my daughter. So this is a very selfish one. But let's go right to it. So in verse 1, 2, 3, 21, who do you serve? And so when you put in the work, it's like, I used to think, if you just put in work, then everything works out. Well, you got to put in right work. And so the question is like, who do you serve? And think about this, like, who do you serve in your heart, your mind, and your skills? Your heart, your mind, and your skills. And are they aligned? We talk about this, in times past, and I want to let you know of it, is when you take a word like vibe, right? A lot of people think of it as like a cushy kind of feeling. No, a vibe, right, is not the energy you bring into the room. It's the way in which people feel when you leave. But the only way that people will feel amazing when you leave is if your heart, your mind, and your skills are in line. So your heart set, which is your beliefs, your mindset, which is your intentions, and your skill set, which is your actions. You align those things, and I want to challenge you in this. Any single person that you feel great when you walk away from, ask yourself, are they consistent in those areas? Is their heart aligned with their mind? Is their mind aligned with their actions? And so when that happens, it's unreal what can happen. So, and ask yourself, like, who do you serve? And who is your heart serving? Who is your mind serving? Who is your skill serving? If they're all in alignment, guys, it is curtains. It makes things so much simpler in all aspects of life. In verse 4 and 20, your eyes will fill up your heart. This one was massive because, I run into this challenge a lot. And, I had a challenge last night because my daughter wants to move to New York. And I love it, and I want to be supportive of her. She loves New York. She loves it so much. But I watched a movie last night that you should not watch if you have a 15-year-old daughter that wants to move to New York. And it was called Woman of the Hour. And it was about Rodney Akala, and he was a serial killer, and he murdered like 130 people. He was on the dating game, and, it was awful. And all I could think about was my daughter being alone in New York City and all these crazy people. So my eyes, as I watched it, it filled my heart up with this. And I was like, I almost wanted to just go in, and it was a little bit late, but after I watched it, and I was like, I shouldn't have watched the movie, but I definitely want to go hug my daughter. But it got into my heart because it came through my eyes. You got to be conscious of what you allow yourself to see and what you're around of and become aware of, because it ultimately gets into your heart. When your heart fills up, it'll come out your mouth. Once it comes out your mouth, then your feet will start to move towards your words. And so just be conscious of this. My feet were wanting to move towards like telling my daughter, no, you need to stay at home with me. Don't go to New York. But it's her dream, everything like that. I'm probably going to watch some Disney movies tonight to counteract it as much as possible. In verse 5, 6, 7, 8, 10, 18, 22, 25, 26, and 29, this is pretty important, right? So think of this. Hard, right work prospers. Hard, right work prospers. It means that you work hard. You push yourself. I went to the doctor yesterday, and I asked her, and she said my cholesterol was a little bit high. And I was like, does that mean I'm elite? And she was like, well, I guess if you want to put it in that way, yes, you're very elite. And I was like, well, what could be the best? She said, vigorous exercise. I said, is walking around the block. She's like, nah, you got to push. You got to work hard at it. And so hard right work prospers. Anything that you do and you focus your mind and you work hard at it and you're doing what you were purposed to do, guess what'll happen? It'll start to prosper. It won't prosper overnight. And I've seen this over time so much, and especially with myself when I started Inchstones and I started going through the corresponding proverb for the corresponding day, the listenership dropped off like you couldn't even believe. But you just got to work hard at it. You just got to keep going. You got to adapt and make it. And some of the episodes that I've looked at and I've looked past, and I look at it and I'm like, oh man, that wasn't that great. But you know what? You just got to keep going. You got to move and you got to make it better all the time. Hard right work prospers. In verse 9, 14, 15, 19, 24, and 27, a little right is more valuable than a lot of wrong. And it goes right in line with the cheaper the price, the more the buyers that are going to show up, right? A little bit of right is more valuable than a lot of wrong. And I always tried to debunk this theory because I was like, nah, more is better. Because as growing up as a kid in Lompoc, California, in a 1-bedroom apartment with 5 people, I was like, nah, I'm just trying to get a bigger apartment. I don't care what it looks like. I just need more than just this one room. But what I found was, and this is what my mom was saying all the time, what my pops was saying, what my brother was saying, you got to keep doing the right thing. And a little bit of right is way better than a lot of wrong. In verse 11, 12, 16, 17, and 28, watch this. It just runs it down, right? And this is just principle based. Is seek, listen, pay attention, apply, and then rinse and repeat. I'll say it one more time for you. Seek, but be conscious of what you're seeking. That's what we asked right off the bat. Who you serving, right? In your heart, in your mind, and in your actions. Who are you serving? Are they aligned? When they're aligned, you have an irresistible vibe, right? So seek wisdom, listen to it, pay attention to it. That's different. Paying attention and listening to it, completely different things. Pay attention to it, apply it, and then rinse and repeat and do it over and over and over and over again. It's just like with my son, I ask him, did you brush your teeth? He's like, yeah. And then I asked him this morning and he's like, well, guys, you got to do it every single day. It's tough. It is not tough to brush your teeth. Boy, you need to brush your teeth. But I'm saying that sometimes it's tough to be able to stay consistent in these times. But seek wisdom, listen, pay attention, apply, and just rinse and repeat it all the time. Sometimes it'll get boring, but the boring work is the thing that brings the most reward. I promise you. In 13 to 23, be kind. You will run into yourself at some point. Be kind. Contribute to every single environment that you go into or every single person. Make sure that you leave something on the table because at some point you're going to run into yourself. And what I mean by this is that if you're nasty to people, you take advantage of people, you're going to run into yourself at some point and they're going to take advantage of you. Now, doesn't mean that won't happen at some point, but doing right is never wrong. There's never a wrong time to do right. So in verse 30, wisdom, insight, and plans are no match for the Lord. Wisdom, insight, plans are no match for the Lord. It's crazy, right? Because we're taught to seek wisdom, but seeking wisdom is the right use of knowledge, and that comes from the fear of God. But if we think that we can erase him and we just got wisdom, we just go, okay, I got some, and now I have insight into that thing. I have plans, and I don't need him anymore. No, he says he wants you plugged into the source all the time. And when we do that, you'll see exponential things happen in your life. But also, too, like what he'll say is like, if you got the wisdom, you got the insight, you got the plans, but you ain't got me, it don't work. But if you have me, you'll have them all. Right? It's just, it's so simple. It's crazy. In verse 31, do you want to win the battle or do you want to have the victory? And this was the thing that my pops talked to me about a lot of times because, a lot of times I would be like, no, I'm right. I need to have this. I need to have that. And he's like, do you want to win the battle, son, or you want to have the victory? Because sometimes you're going to take an L in the battle. But the victory, God has a plan in that because he needed you to take the L to learn the lesson. And when you learn the lesson, you'll be able to move on and be greater in the situation where you're going. So I just want to encourage every single one of you in that spot. And, as we finish up today, the hardest work we will ever do is to give in to his will for your life. You have value when you depend on him. The cheaper the buyer, or cheaper the price, the more the buyers. He wants you to have crazy amounts of value, and you do when you simply depend on him. We were talking about it the other day in my men's group because, if I'm on YouTube and you see my video, I'm doing an alligator with my hand. And an alligator, what's crazy about it is if an alligator's jaw is shut, you could grab it with your hands, you can hold it shut because it doesn't have much power opening up. It only has the power closing down. And I think that's indicative of us in our lives. We clamp down on something. We hold on to it so tight and we think, oh my gosh, my rituals or my routines are the things that I need to do all the time. And what God is saying is just let that go, depend on me. And when that happens, what I want you to do is I want you to exercise the muscle of opening up and letting go of the things that you have today, because I want to add exponential value. I want to add the, invaluable aspects to your life. And I don't want you to think that it's just about, the temporal part or the parts that you think are the value. I want to add actual value in your life. And that will only happen when you release all the things that you think are the most important and you just accept me and depend on me in your life. And so that's been Proverbs 21, Inchstones. If you loved it, thank you so much for tuning in. Make sure you comment, you share it with a friend, turn on your notifications. Stacy, Jimmy Barbour, I love you so much. You're incredible. I love your family. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. It has been my absolute honor. Buy the book, buy Bling, do that and come to the Vibe Room. And then check out actually Secret Knock, the #1 networking conference in the world that you can't go to unless you're invited. And your boy is one of the only ones with the invitation. So have a wonderful day. I love you guys a ton. My name is Kelly Cardenas, and I'm officially off the hot seat. Peace, love, and soul.
Nothing more on my mind. I got to shine, so every day I climb. Work in the morning, work in the evening. We's achieving, cause we believing. It's for certain, we put the work in. We ain't stopped just because it's hurting. Right before your eyes, so it's coming to no surprise. The takeover is televised. Over and over and over again. Make no mistake, we continue to win. Defeat never known, cause I will not lose. They wanna mimic my moves, but can't walk in my shoes.